for summer to arrive, and then like mid-July happened. Right? This temperature has been absolutely crazy, but I guess I'll take it. I'll take it over the snow and the cold for now anyway. I don't know about the road construction out there, but I mean, my goodness, it's everywhere. So, but we'll survive. We'll survive. So good. I'm glad everyone had a good weekend. Our fathers had Happy Father's Day. We'll get back into the swing of things here. Oh my goodness. Okay. They did not show this to me ahead of time. Okay. Happy birthday to me. Thank you. Just in case y'all didn't know, from the board, the sign in the break room, and my door. Yes, it is. It's my birthday, and thank you. I appreciate it. And it's fun that I get to spend it with you guys. It's also fun that we have a few new faces on the leadership team that some of you may or may not have met yet. And so Angie Schott is our new productivity coach, and we're so excited to have her here and someone dedicated to be able to meet with our agents. That is her, that is her one thing with us. And she's officially part of the leadership team. And she is splitting her time between both the Rochester and Winona location. In case you weren't aware, our Winona location has grown by leaps and bounds in the last 12 to 18 months, and so it's nice to be able to have someone from that neck of the woods that can support our agents there as well. And Angie, do you want to anything about yourself or the program that you want to share? I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit, but
I'm prepared.
Okay.
I'm thinking about this for several weeks. Don't be nervous. So Angie Schott, I've been in real estate for 15 years, so that's all I'm new here. I'm not new to real estate. So it's great coming up here a little bit more. So the productivity coaching program has two new gentlemen. They are very smart, very ready to go. Thank you to a few of you who have taken them in, posted some open houses or some showings with them. That's been lovely. I will be reaching out to other folks if you are interested. So the two new folks were auto-enrolled in the program.
They're both K-Square graduates. Yep. And we're going to be bringing on a nice little handful of more of those graduates in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So that program will gradually start to fill. And you're being modest. So she's been licensed for 15 years. She's a licensed broker in both Minnesota and Wisconsin. She has a teaching background. And she's just got a really great, disposition, I think, when it comes to assisting agents. She's very knowledgeable, yet very patient. She's excited about the role, which makes us excited. She's excited to learn more about Keller Williams. And so to Angie's point, she's going to be, calling some folks in the roster, because you don't have to be a brand new agent or just getting into the business in order to be able to coach with her and participate in the program. So
yes, that's the other kind of piece of it.
Yeah.
We're definitely have room for some newer agents. The first 1 to 2 years that maybe aren't trained enough, living up to their potential, aren't where they want to be. We can establish something, work out something with them to put them into a smaller, more condensed program for a short amount of time. We're open to just having a conversation. So if you see someone fit, or the other team member might be a good fit, about that, send them my name.
Yeah. Yeah, so her days where she's physically here in the office are Tuesdays and Thursdays. She's in Winona on Monday and Wednesday, and then Fridays by appointment or phone, if anybody needs to get a hold of her. So welcome, Angie. And then Elijah is our new technology and marketing coordinator. So he is going to be helping us with the onboarding of new agents. And we're really excited about, Elijah's background and marketing and some of his tech skills. But again, I don't want to steal your thunder. Anything you want to share with the group?
Yeah, again, Elijah Hurst, you pretty much covered it, but I'll be helping onboarding new agents, as well as learning everything that really is about Command, Connect, the tech side of things. So I'm looking forward to
Yeah, and we're excited to have an on-site, expert with regard to all of that stuff and more. So welcome, Elijah. Excited to have you. Okay. So here are three new folk that are that have joined us. One of them, Sam, is a K-SCORE graduate. Dee Sackett joined the Buckingham team, and Gareth Russell's with Black Swan. And for those who don't know, he is Megan Hobson's son. So if you happen to see any of these bright, shiny, smiley faces throughout the Market Center, please be sure and say hello and give them a warm welcome. All right, and we have had so many peppers recently that we've got a bit behind in recognizing some of them and announcing some of them. So congrats goes out to Bruce, Lauren, Colleen, Athie, Abby, Tiana, Kelly, Jennifer, Trudy, Todd, and Shauna. So Cap Day is a happy day. So congrats to all of them. And there is a, let me see, I've got some notes on this. I've got some notes that came out from KWRI with regard to Keller Williams. In case you hadn't heard it, was named one of the 100 best recession-proof businesses to start in 2022 by Franchise Business Review. So with all the talk of the changes that we see happening in the market and the shift that we've been hearing about for quite some time, kind of nice to hear that we have been recognized as one of the top 100 best recession-proof businesses. We had some in-depth discussion at the most recent ALC meeting. By the way, if you aren't on the ALC, just another reminder, you can still attend those meetings. We had some really great content at the last one with regard to the market and the shifting and some of the things that are happening with the economy and real estate and things of that nature. And actually, we're going to bring that conversation to a team meeting in July. I'm not sure what date it is, Katie, if you can hear me. I don't know if you have that date, but that'll be one that you definitely want to put on your calendar. We got a lot of great feedback from that discussion that was held that day. And it's just market statistics, what's happening in the economy, things that we could be doing in order to prepare ourselves personally from a business perspective for what's to come between now and the end of the year. So take a moment to, if you can, read the list. We will put a link in the closed Facebook group to the list of companies that were also named in that same category. So be sure and watch for that. With that, we have two speakers today, you guys. So we got through announcements and that sort of thing a little bit quickly. We have Matt Shimmick here. Matt, if you want to come on up, and Matt is with, there's a couple different names. So I'm just going to let you take it from here because I know that we have IHG Hotel and Resorts, but I think locally, maybe there's also another name that goes in conjunction with that. So is there anything I can help pass out while you're speaking?
Yeah, you can pass these out, whoever. These are just branded magnetic chip clips or fridge magnets or hand sanitizer spray, which is always nice because you guys live your lives on the go. But I thought it was fitting because it's a house shape. Because Staybridge Suites is one of the hotels that we have. Once I get untangled here, we'll be good. Well, you guys, I am always impressed with realtors because you guys have to be innovative, you have to be self-starters, you have to be able to learn in an adapting market. And stay up with like all what's going on in the market. And Rochester's market is, I think you guys had said recession proof is a word. There's a family for every house, right? And it's the challenge you guys have is trying to find that house before the next person does for that family that's your client, right? So I know you guys work collaboratively quite a bit with other real estate agents, and Keller Williams results speak for itself. So keep up the good work. I think you guys found a good agency to be a part of. Even when I was in Vancouver, Washington, I know Keller Williams was, I had some realtor friends that I was just always impressed, not just with their results, because your income is, kind of tied to those results. But at the same time, it's good having that network, that community of support. So, so don't go looking anywhere. She didn't pay me to say that, by the way. I just get a good energy from here. Jill Priggan's my real estate agent, by the way. So I bought a house from her, 3-bedroom condo, like, gosh, September of 2021. So right during COVID, I'm working through COVID and working with Jill, who I went to high school with. So now you guys kind of know my age, except I'm a bit older than her, a few ages, grades above. But anyway, enough about me, but kudos to you guys for finding a good agency, and, you know, helping people find their dream home. And sometimes it's not their dream home, but it's the home they need or the best fit for what they're looking for. But I know the biggest thing is someone walking into that home and they get that sense of like, they just see it, right? But there's so many houses and it's so competitive. The challenge is for you guys to help listen and lead those people to those showings, all within a very high sense of urgency, of course. So the hotel we have is, if anyone knows where Virgil's used to be, it's on 11th and 2nd Street. Don Charleston. It's okay. That is fine. That is perfectly fine. I wasn't planning on using it anyway because, so Even Hotel, main thing I want to talk about is Even, because I doubt has anyone even heard of Even Hotels? No, that's typically what we get. So Even Hotels is great. It's a fitness, wellness inspired hotel room with workout equipment in the rooms. There's actual like workout area, yoga ball, different fitness items in the room to make you be able to work out on the go. The concept for Even Hotels is, hey, you're a busy adult, you have to travel for whether it's medical, whether it's for business, you should still be able to live your life and still incorporate wellness. So it gives you no excuse to not work out. So that's a downside, is you have no excuse to not work out. The fitness center is like state-of-the-art, spacious. I mean, we have the Woodway ellipticals. I guess it's more of it's on a track system. So if you think of like a army tank, it's not the typical treadmill, but we also have ellipticals, plenty of space to work out, Pelotons. Some of our rooms even have Pelotons in the room to work out in. So some of our suites have those. And then we have Cork and Kale Restaurant and Bar, which is a wellness inspired menu, more of a bistro and bar if you would, but that does breakfast, lunch, dinner on the weekdays. And on the weekends, it does breakfast till 10:30 and, happy hour from 5 to 10. So, and that's right across St. Mary's. So it's great if you are ever waiting for traffic on 2nd Street, you want to pop in for a drink, check it out. It's a gorgeous property. And I've really been in a lot of hotels in my career of over 10 years with mainly Hilton and IHG and Marriott. So this is a very special hotel. And that's one side of the hotel. The other side of the hotel, the Staybridge Suites, most of you probably have heard of Staybridge. Staybridge, there's 2 of them in town. One is Commerce Drive right over here. That one's an old property. I'm not gonna say anything bad about it. It's just an older property. We're the newest IHG property in Rochester, and we just happen to be dual branded. So the Staybridge Suites is very residential in feel. Like the finishing is full-size appliances in every room. You can cook from the rooms, all the basic essentials one would need to cook, should you want to do that. And then even the smallest room has a sofa, like a full-size sofa sleeper as well. So we have suites that are like 2-bedroom suites with separate bedrooms and separate bathrooms, and quite a few of the 1-bedroom suites. It's very spacious as far as the layout is concerned. So it's very usable for people that are like extended stay. But we just celebrated our anniversary May 13th. So we've only been open for a year and we do very well. So like right now there's 299 Staybridges in America and we are ranked 26 of 299. For Even, we're teeter-tot each month between 1 and 2 of only 19. So we perform very well because we are dedicated to guests being able to walk in and know the room's clean. There should never be any questions. When I do tours, I don't even look at, I know that for you guys who stage things like this, like, oh, I don't, because I have that confidence in our housekeeping team. And plus our guests shouldn't have to wonder, is it clean? Am I going to find something embarrassing? No, that's not how we run. And most of our business, to be honest, is Mayo Clinic. So a lot of you guys, if you have friends and family coming in for Mayo Clinic, just keep us in mind. We do have Mayo Clinic discounts that you can book as a package online, but at the end of the day, Even is a great fit for the lesser length of stays, like less than a week. And stay is great for longer stay, or someone who wants to available. Sometimes you want to have that kitchenette, you want to have a full-size fridge in the room and that type thing. But we've also found in the extended stay world, a lot of times people don't even use it. So I just want to bring brand awareness really for Even Hotels today. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Leaving a few things, and you can always reach out to myself if you want more information, or if you have any leads. We do have a 1,300 square foot meeting room too, so if you guys ever get so big that this room or other rooms don't accommodate, it's a very nice meeting room that's available. So yeah. And lastly, just so you know, I had recommended that, like the top 25 sellers for one of these quarters, however you guys want to coordinate that, would be gifted a free night stay. Now that's something you can use for yourself for Even Hotels, or it's something you could give to a client. You guys are in situations where you're very intimately involved with your customer. Like Jill, I'm not actively looking, but I'll be listing within a couple of years, and she knows all about my divorce. She knows all about my kids. She's, all these things, very intimate in people's lives, right? And sometimes closing doesn't go as planned. So you get that situation where someone needs just that 1 or 2 nights stay. My goal isn't that you send them our way. That's my hope. But the goal is to make your job easier, that you have somewhere to start. And with Even Staybridge Suites having both options for extended stay and a lower length of stay, I mean, even our Staybridge Suites, we have basically storage closets that are huge so that people can rent out. It is great to have that in your pocket to know, so you're not researching one of Rochester's 60 hotels and trying to figure out, well, who has a 2-bedroom suite? 2-bedroom suites, they're pretty booked out basically for the next 2 months. But as far as knowing where to start, myself or Jessica Taylor, who used to be the Commerce Drive Director of Sales, we're very helpful. If we can't help you with us, we're going to help point you in the right direction. So that's why I'm here, to bring some brand awareness. And so feel free to check out our website. If you request more information, I'm happy to send it to you, but I'm not going to solicit to you guys or anything like that. You can know where to find me. So I'll leave a few things up here, and then however you want to devise that, at the end of the day, these are good for till basically 2023 Halloween.
Option also for working with relocation clients, right? That just need a place to stay for a night or two. And because we are the land of Mayo and we're dealing a lot with healthcare professionals, I can see this Even Hotel being very attractive from a health, fitness, that sort of, perspective. So appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Sharing what you guys offer.
Tell me real quick about your storage closets.
The storage closets
Are they in the room?
no, they're in the hall. The Staybridge has hallways, and there's 2 on each floor, but they're about, I'm not good with square footage, I would say an 1/8 size each from the 8th size of this room. So they're pretty spacious. And they can rent those out, but most people don't need to use those, but sometimes you're in a situation you don't know when you're going to move in, or you don't know when you're going to find that house. And those are really stressful situations that you guys are looked to not always expected to come up with solutions, but when you can be that all-star agent, I mean, they're not going to go anywhere else, right? They're going to call you again for every need they have. So, or refer you when they have a friend looking to sell. So, because no one wants to research which real estate agent to find.
Right.
That's pretty stressful for most people. So you guys rely on those referrals, but we appreciate it. I'll leave these with you, and happy birthday again. Hope you guys have a great week. And I'll excuse myself because you guys probably have a lot of interesting information you go over in these meetings.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks again, you guys.
Thank you.
Actually, Don isn't coming. Oh, Jennifer is. Okay. His associate.
Okay.
And she won't be here any minute. I told her 11:30.
Okay,
She's bringing lunch.
nice.
And so I just hope everybody will stay. She's gonna be talking about retirement, options for independent contractors and.
All the stuff that we all need to be having conversations around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Okay,
please stay and
Yes.
support that.
no worries.
She'll be here any minute.
I have a couple things that I can go over to kind of fill the time. I don't know, I think we removed the slides because we wanted to make sure that we left plenty of time for our last speaker.
And it's not gonna be done, but it's just
Awesome. Okay, and thank you for setting that up, Sarah. One of the tech updates was that we wanted to make you guys aware of is Designs for Teams. It's being released in June. In fact, it might already be released. Looks like maybe she just arrived. Come on in. And it's going to allow you guys to create a consistent look and feel across brands while leveraging other graphics. One of the other things that we wanted to make you aware of is June's tech features include Import Wizard, again, Designs for Teams, and an all-new KW Micro Suite. The Import Wizard makes it possible to import contacts into Command using a CSV file. There are probably a lot of you in here that are already aware of that perhaps have already done that. Who in here, by a raise of hands, and there is no shame in whatever the answer is using Command at a somewhat high level, particularly with regard to your contacts, putting your contacts in? Okay, good. And is anyone on a regular basis deploying smart plans to their database? Couple of you. Okay. How about any of the boosted social media? Okay, good, great. I'm really happy to see that. And I feel like there is maybe one more. Yep, there is one more. And it's with regard to the KW Tech Micro site that's coming soon. And the notes that I have here are how to set this, how to explain it is the new KW Tech Micro Suite site will remind you of all the great technology at your disposal while providing a powerful tool for you, recruitment tool for you to grow your profit share tree. So we're gonna have another class that we put on the calendar in the next couple of weeks that breaks down a system that you guys can deploy and implement with regard to building additional revenue through profit share. So that'll be a great tool that you can use in conjunction with that as well. So any questions on any of that? No, okay. Well, then without further ado, come on up. Yes, love it. Thanks for being here,
I
Jenny.
usually like to walk in. Yeah. Well, perfect. Well, I'll probably just introduce. So I'm Jenny Charleston and I'm with Edward Jones. We actually Red Cross and those at Circle K. So by Mr. Pizza, which we're gonna have for lunch. in a little bit. So if we make it through my little portion, that's the reward. So so there's a couple things that are in the handout. So really what I'm planning on talking about is just different ways to look at retirement, especially as business owners, kind of some different optional ways that you can look at how do you prepare and how do you plan for retirement. So there's a few things that are in your handout. But first of all, a little bit about Edward Jones. So that's the company that I'm with, and we've got a pretty big presence here in Rochester. So I actually have been with Edward Jones for a little over 3 years now. Prior to that, I owned businesses as well. I actually was in partnership with my dad, and that is who I am actually in an office with right now, with Edward Jones. But prior to coming to Edward Jones, I was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and we had a couple of massage envy locations and a couple of hair salons. But I was the boots on the ground person, so I was doing all the things. So before that, I worked in banking and mortgage actually. So it's really fun for me to get back to working with their sort of one-on-ones and looking at what their long-term goals are and short-term goals are and education planning for kids. The majority of what we do is looking at retirement planning. That's normally the number one focus for a lot of people. So once you kind of figure out what retirement looks like to you, the biggest thing is everyone that comes to me that they want to know, well, what do I need to be doing? Or like, what am I on track for? What's the best ways for me to optimize planning for retirement? So there's a lot of different things that you can do. And one thing that we do at Edward Jones is we have quite a few planning tools that we can put in. Well, what are your goals? What do you think you spend in or going to spend in retirement, even though it seems like a long ways off? There's different estimates that we can put in there, and then it just allows us to say, okay, well, if this is what you think you're gonna spend in retirement, and obviously, so people look at social security as one of the ways that help that function. But what else can you do to get there? And what are the best ways to look at, you know, when you think about tax advantage accounts? There's a lot of different things that you can do. So today we'll just kind of cover a couple of those, most commonly used. And then I'll open it up for some questions and we'll talk a little bit about market updates and stuff like that too. So that sounds good.
Yeah, but Jenny, do you, seeing as how we're all independent contractors,
Mhm.
are there any plans that
Yeah,
are more, any information that's more specific to
yes,
that?
absolutely. So that's what we'll talk about.
Sounds great.
So the ones that we'll talk about most today would be simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, different conversion options that you can do. There's different income guidelines on some of those accounts, but there's some ways that can get around those too. So those are really the basic ones that we'll cover today. And then if you have more specific questions about something specifically, I'm certainly open for those questions, but feel free to jump in and ask questions at any point. So.
It's
great, because I was here all independent.
We're all
Correct.
independent contractors, and what triggered me about thinking about how helpful you could be to other agents
Yeah.
was I came down to, I had saved a lot of money for my taxes this year, but I didn't save enough. And so, Jenny's dad, takes care of me, and I was able to maximize some things that I could put into my SEP
Yeah,
that saved me.
reduce your taxes.
Reduce my taxes by a great amount.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was really thankful for that.
right. So a lot of times how it works too, I work with a couple of real estate agents and they might fund other IRAs like a Roth IRA, and you can talk a little bit more about what that is. But then they also have a simple or a SEP account as well. And she might put a little bit into that throughout the year, but a lot of times it's when you're really getting into it with your tax professional, your accountant, whoever helps with your taxes. And at that point, they can let you know from that what your most beneficial amount would be. So a lot of times people will dollar cost average, maybe put in monthly or quarterly or a couple times a year, a dollar amount into that SEP or simple account. I'll tell you a little bit more about that, what those actually mean. But that's a pre-tax account that will help you on your taxes. Maybe if you will bump into a different tax bracket or just different strategies that your accountant usually or whoever helps with your taxes will let you know what the maximum amount would be. Did you work with your tax?
Yes,
Professional
in
too?
conjunction with Don to, you know, I'd much rather dump a lump sum into that kind of account than send it in a check to the IRS.
Uncle Sam, yeah,
So that's
exactly.
what
Mhm.
I was able to do, which made me feel much better.
Yeah, exactly. So there are some different things that you can do along the way if you are working with a tax professional and then a financial advisor. A lot of times we'll even have a conversation together if that's what's best. So a lot of different things that you can do. So what exactly is a simple IRA and what is a SEP IRA? Are you guys familiar with what those are? Okay. So there is a little handout, and I'm not going to read through this with you, but in there, in your folder, there is just like the definition and a few tidbits about a simple IRA and a SEP IRA. So do any of you guys have teams that work with you? Or are you guys all just one person teams?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple of different things to consider when you're looking at that. So they both are pre-taxed. So when you put the money in, it's pre-tax dollars, meaning that will reduce your taxable income at the end of the year. So that's where your tax professional comes into great consideration. When it comes time to actually doing your taxes, you're able to contribute to these accounts until tax filing deadline. So you can contribute to them until April 18th last year. So you're able to contribute to them up until tax filing deadline time. So that gives you time to make sure that you and your accountant are on the right page and able to maximize that contribution amount. There are a couple of things to consider. So with a simple IRA, the maximum that you can put into a simple IRA is $14,000 a year. If you're over 50, you can put in $17,000 now. So it increases occasionally. There'll be little adjustments that are made. The IRS allows for certain adjustments. So $14,000 if you're under 50. If you're over 50, you can do 17,000 a year. And then you also are able to provide a match to yourself. So the match would be a 3% match to yourself is what you would do. If you had a team, you also would have to give that same match to your team. Whoever else is under your plan, or whoever else would be eligible to be there, like a full-time employee with you. Or you could do what they call a 2% contribution, which isn't a match. So in order to receive the match, they have to at least put 3% in to receive the 3%. Otherwise, you would say, to myself and anyone else on my team, I'll give 2% no matter what. That's probably not what anybody in this room. You have small things, you can already do 3% match. So that's how that plan works. So the 3% is whatever your income was, you're able to put up to 3% of that in there. And that's what would help reduce your taxable income. And then for the SEP IRA, so there's a little bit of a difference in the SEP IRA than it's simple. So a SEP IRA, you're able to put a little bit more into that account if that's what you were looking to do. So a SEP IRA, you could put into, it's a maximum of 61,000 a year, or 25%, no more than 25% of your total income for that year. The reason that if you had a team, that you probably wouldn't pick that option. Maybe you would, extraordinarily generous, but what you would put into theirs is what you'd also put into yours. So it allows you to put a bigger contribution amount into that as the employer, but you also have to do it to the other people on your team too. So also sometimes the difference is if a SEP IRA can be set up anytime up until tax filing. So you could potentially contribute for the previous year. It's up until April. So if you didn't know for sure what your situation was, or you're satisfied, you'd still be able to do it up until April 15th to set it up to make that contribution. However, in a simple IRA plan, it has to be set up before October of that calendar year for you to be able to take advantage of them contributions for that year. So those are truthfully probably the most common pre-tax methods for you and what you guys do for a living and how you file your taxes that you probably look at doing. There's some other types of plans, but they cost more. And ideally, these two would probably be the most common that you would look at. On top of that, you also can have a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA contribution, and that's $6,000 a year that you can put into that. You can do up to $6,000 or $7,000 if you're over age 50. So the difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA is that a Roth IRA is already taxed when the money goes into the account, and then it grows tax deferred, and then when you pull it out after 59.5 in retirement, then it's tax free. So it's a really nice benefit. So if we know one thing, taxes probably are going to be decreasing anytime soon. So you pay tax now or you pay tax later, plus all of that compounded growth over all of the years. So if you're 40 years old and you've got until you're 59.5, 20 years before you would pull money out of that account, all of that compounded growth for that time frame will come out tax free. You've already paid tax on the money when it went into it. When it comes out, you don't pay tax on it. That's why there's a maximum on how much you can put in there. Otherwise, that's what everybody do. So the IRS puts a maximum on how much you are able to put into that account. So there's a lot of real estate professionals that I have a couple that I work with that's what we have been doing is either a SEP or a simple IRA. That's pre-tax method. That's what's going to help decrease what you pay out towards taxes at the end of the year. But then you might supplement that with some tax-free growth, and that would be in that Roth IRA. So, do you have any questions on that? Do you think that makes sense?
Yeah, and you know, I just had one employee, but there's like this long period of time before you actually, where you can take, it seemed like there's a long period of time where you can do that simple IRA before you have to be
3 years.
3 years.
Almost 3 years. You can do it sooner, but you don't have to. And you can set parameters on what that looks like and what does that person, how many hours do they have to work? There's a few guidelines on it, but you are able to set parameters, and I think it goes specifically to you as well. But you can wait up to 3 years before you contribute on their behalf. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, before you have to employed. Yeah, great question. A great comment. Yeah, absolutely. So you're considering different options. That's a good one to consider. 3 years is do it sooner, but if they've been 3 years and meet those criteria, then it would be matching or contributing to them as well.
What happens if you lose that employee?
Then they still keep their account.
But I
um,
mean,
As far as vesting.
so when I did this, I had an employee
Mhm.
and now I don't. Okay, so should I change my plan?
You shouldn't have to change your plan.
Okay,
You just don't spend anything out on their behalf.
okay.
So they can keep their plan and it still is there. It's just not tied to you as an active employee. So they can still keep the plan. A lot of times what we do if you're not there anymore, if your employee's not there anymore, is you can roll that over into just a traditional IRA. So it's not titled a simple or a SEP IRA any longer. You just put it in, we just convert it to what's called a traditional IRA. And then you go from there. And then it's not tied to you as a company owner.
Okay.
Mhm. But as long as you're not making contributions on that account, some nice people live in a simple plan, even though it's not tied, they're not actively receiving contributions, and that's okay, do it that way too. A lot of times we will convert it to a traditional.
So in really dumb terms, what's the difference between a regular IRA and a simple IRA?
Yeah, so in a simple IRA, you're able to contribute more.
Okay.
Mhm. And also you can have a simple IRA and a Roth IRA. Whereas contributions towards the simple, I'm sorry, toward the traditional or Roth, so traditional and a Roth, you do up to 6,000 if you're under 50, you can do 7,000 if you're over 50. So if you want to be able to contribute both, then you would say, okay, let's do a simple IRA plan for you, and then you can also have Roth IRA as an additional bucket of retirement income as well.
So the Roth IRA is also 6,000 if you're
Mhm.
460.
I mean, fit 450. You get, they call it a catch-up contribution once you're over 50, you get a little bit more in there.
That's what we want to get.
So it's a little benefit that you get.
You're
Yeah.
gonna die.
Oh my God. Yeah, so that's one of the benefits that you get when you're over that age. There are some income requirements, or you can't go over a certain incomes when you are contributing towards a Roth IRA. Towards a Roth IRA, if you're over like 215,000, you file jointly. That's over the income requirements. So there's ways for us to go around that. We call it backdoor Roth IRA. And there are ways for us to get around those income restrictions. If you're filing individual and you still want to contribute to the Roth IRA, the maximum is 143,000. We file the single and file taxes that way. So there are ways to get around it. We call it a backdoor Roth. It just, the money just goes one extra step and you take care of that. As long as you don't have an additional like traditional IRA that's out there
Now, is that 6,000 for the year?
every year.
So if I want to do it just one lump sum and get out of the way, I can just do that whenever.
So some people do dollar cost averaging. So dollar cost averaging means you're doing it like every month. So if you were under 50, you want to put the maximum contribution of 6,000 in there, you do $500 a month, comes out every month, and it gets invested every month. Sometimes the market's higher, sometimes the market's lower, especially we're seeing that right now. There's lots of volatility in the market going on. But overall, by dollar cost averaging, a lot of times it's pretty beneficial. You can't really ever time the market. That's really difficult to do. It's one of the advantages in the down market. So we're experiencing a down market right now. Everybody's February, I'm sure. I think we're down like 22% roughly on the Dow. So when you're able to put money in for active investors, no one likes to look at your value of any account, whether it's an IRA or an old 401k or a 403k, and see that your account is worth less. But always just remember, you still have the same number of shares in there, and there's never been a time in history where the market did not recover. So your only bad idea really is if you sold, if you decided you're going to get out of the market. Because there's never been a time when the market didn't recover and then end up signing a new high at some point. So the good thing is if you are an active investor, you're not pulling income from your accounts. So there's a point where you go from being planning towards retirement and then you switch that and say, okay, I'm going to look at retiring. How do I start receiving income? How does this even work? So we go through that planning with you individually. But then if we're sending you income, usually we'll end up holding aside amount of cash that we're able to offset when we go up down markets. You have a place to pull from. You don't want to sell when the markets fall. You're actively investing when the market's down like this. If you have money to be able to put into the market, right now is like the most ideal time that you can. It's almost most like finding things that are not on sale.
So, another dumb question.
No dumb
There's
question.
no.
This is like a
There is
language
no
that I'm
such
like,
thing.
oh, just tell
Yeah.
them.
No, I'm glad you're
Okay.
asking that.
There's no dumb
I'll
question.
see what everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
So let's say I can put my 17,000 in
Mhm.
this year. Is that like a 1-for-1 with your taxes? You're paying 17,000 less?
Like offsets your income, your taxable income. Yep, your tax, your taxable income.
By the dollar amount that you put in?
Because it's pre-taxed. It doesn't mean you're never gonna pay tax on
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but you're not gonna pay tax on it until you pull it out in retirement. Ideally, you don't wanna pull it out. before it's just penalty.
Right, and hopefully your income will be a little less.
So which one is the one that you pay taxes now? That way when you pull it out, you don't have to pay taxes.
That's the Roth IRA.
The Roth IRA.
Right.
Right, Carrie, so when we retire, we're not making as much money, so we won't have to pay 35% on that extra money.
Okay. We have a different income.
Yep, you get pretty good bracket. Yep, exactly. And then, and you just because you can pull it out, you can start pulling income from those retirement accounts at age 59.5, that's when you have to. You're not set once you do start pulling income out, it's very much based on what you want to do, like what are you comfortable with, what do you want to pull out? The rest of it stays invested, so I have people ask that question all the time, well, what happens when I'm 59.5? It's not like you turn 59.5 and you just pull everything out, it just sits there. It's still all invested unless we adjust. We rebalance things all the time because what we do when we decide how we're going to invest your money is we go through really education. We make sure that we both have a fair understanding of your comfort with risk, meaning how much of your money you want to have in the market, the stock market. That's where you're owning individual companies. And usually when we're in a retirement account, it's usually in mutual funds or ETFs. I won't get way into weeds on that, but what those are, they're invested in the market. A mutual fund or ETF is a group of companies that you own, so it allows you to have a great level of diversified investments. And we're not going to just put you into Target or into IBM. You most likely will own both of those things because they're great companies to own, but they're inside mutual funds, which means if one company is not doing great, there's 30 other companies inside that fund that hopefully might offset it. However, in a market like this, where we're just seeing the market in general down, you're still going to see those values go down. But when you're investing in really great quality, should be in good shape. When the market recovers, so should those funds. They should recover too. So key is instruction.
Right.
Sometimes, yeah, just don't panic. If you do panic, that's why you have hopefully an advisor, somebody that you can call that will hopefully talk you down and make sure that you feel comfortable. But rebalancing is always something that you can do during those down markets too. So if you have money that you can invest and you're planning on investing for retirement or other goals, it's always, I think some nice people have to take a big gulp when they're not familiar with it, but when the market's down, it's the best time to put your money in. Any questions on that? So a lot of it too is individual. So this is kind of just overall like bigger picture. But if anybody was interested, we go through things like individually. So I know what your goals are. Sometimes your goal might be shorter term. Sometimes it is just retirement and you've got a good time horizon or not until, over a certain number of years. And then as that number of years diminishes, sometimes people like to get more conservative or have less invested in the market and more in the fixed income or more conservative types of investments. And so and I say sometimes because there's sometimes that people are in retirement and they are comfortable knowing that there's going to be risk in the market, but they still want to look at maintaining that same type of investment. The difference is what your long-term returns look like. So the more money that you have invested in equities or in stocks, when you own companies, usually the goal is that you have a better rate of return long-term. You keep your portfolio more conservative, meaning bonds, bond funds, that type of investment. There's other types of investments inside there, CDs, things like that have a much lower rate of return. It's much more conservative, meaning you're not going to see high highs and low lows. You should see less of them, but your long-term performance will also be more conservative. So if you guys, there is a little deal in here, this retirement calculator, which is kind of neat. So on the one side, it's got, where it just has the ages down the side. So it starts at age 25. So if you pick your age, and I'll just default to say you're 40. I'll default to age 40. If you're 40 years old and you had put $10,000 in the market and didn't touch it until you're 65 years old, how that compounds, meaning that annual compounding rate of return. So this is kind of what I was talking about with how your money is invested. So a 2% expected return would be a pretty conservative portfolio, meaning you probably have more fixed income as opposed to money invested in the market. If you look at an 8% return, means mostly probably have equities. You're invested into mutual funds or companies, you own companies or part of the companies. So you had $10,000 and at age 40, if you got it conservatively invested, we look at 16, roughly 16.5 is what you have at age 65. You put it into mostly equities, you're going to see higher peaks and valleys as the market has these dips in it. However, in 25 years, that 8% growth would be at 73,000. So it just kind of allows you to see what's your expectation. And when I work with my clients, we look at what those expectations are. So if you're going to be mostly in equities and own mostly companies, here's what you should expect to see like long term, roughly this. I mean, there's no guarantee, but this is roughly what you should see. We can show you what we have seen over the last like 20 years in that sort of allotment. But it also shows you that year to year possible increase or decrease, which sometimes could be up by 30 or down by 20. Right now, we're seeing some people's portfolios down by 20. For mostly in equities, we're down by 20. And even if you have some fixed income in there, this is an unusual time in history. But right now, even bond funds, they're down too. So everything's pretty much down right now, which is pretty interesting. But
Can you open up an IRA for your kids and have that be a deduction, a tax deduction? Or is it
you can't,
you only have this amount to invest every year, and if you divide it up between multiple
I wouldn't
IRAs?
count towards your income if you just want to be generous for credit. I mean, I've had clients that have opened a Roth IRA, as long as they have earned income, they'll open a Roth IRA for their child because they're just generous people. But it counts against their child's income, and that a Roth means you can't put more than 6,000 in if you're under 15, but they have to earn at least that much as well. So if they're 15 or 16 years old and they work a part-time job and summer and made at least 6,000, then they could have a $6,000 contribution towards Roth IRA.
It's good for their taxes,
But it's not going to benefit you.
Yeah.
at all.
Got
You're just nice. You're just a nice, generous human. Yeah. Any questions on that? Well, the backside of this just shows, this is like that dollar cost averaging. It goes by monthly, but it just kind of shows you if you were to put, say you put $250,000 a year in there and you're 40, it shows you again that same thing. So over that 25-year period, your investment would have been 90,000 at a 6% growth rate. That 90,000 would become 252,000. So it's just, sometimes it's like, I don't really understand how all that works. But one of the biggest things is you don't have to understand everything, but hopefully you can work with somebody who will explain enough for you to be comfortable with it, and then trusting the process. We're always going to go over what you own in the account. We're always going to show you what you should be expecting to see. But it is pretty remarkable if the earlier that you can't make up for what you didn't do before. But if you're starting now, I would say even if you put in an amount that you feel is like to somebody else not substantial, it's something, and I would say you should do it. The old you will be happy that you did. Truthfully.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Just ask
My
the
kids will
old-
be happy that I did.
I would say that, like, I'm sure you guys all are very generous, and if you saw an older person walking down the street, 80-year-old walking down the street, I would say treat them like realize that you are going to be that person someday, and Social Security is not going to cut it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to cut it.
That's
So
why you give your kids an IRA so they can pay for yours.
Yeah, right.
I didn't give that to you with mine.
yeah,
I know. I'm funding my senior living,
yeah, exactly.
senior care home.
Jenny, thank you so much.
I mean, was there any other questions that we didn't get on at all? Is there anything? Like, there really is no dumb question. There's no such thing.
Thank you. Thank you for
And
coming.
my card is in there too, so if you have more specific questions on anything, like, don't hesitate to reach out. There's like no such thing as a silly question. And I think the biggest takeaway that I would give is, I'll say this, like, even though my dad's a financial advisor and has been a financial advisor for 30 years. When I was a kid, and when I was in my 20s and even in my early 30s, I was not like doing the things that I probably should have done. I mean, I could have done more, and it was because I didn't realize how important it is. But it is. So even if it feels like a not a huge number, I would just strongly suggest try doing it. And even if that dollar cost averaging, meaning the monthly feels better too, you can set it to look automatic. But then if you're towards the end of the year, or you've got some things that you're working on with your accountant, you realize that you have some opportunities, just let us help be part of that process, or find some professional that can be part of that process with you. Just hopefully it won't just help you in the short term, but it will definitely help you in the long term too. Nice being here.
Yes, a nice intimate group.
Yeah, very much so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.